Welcome to Elevate, where we explore the intersection of leadership, culture, and well-being. Join us as we embark on a journey to empower both individuals and organizations to reach new heights of success and fulfillment. I'm your host, Annette Dowdle, and together, let's elevate the way we work and live. Well, hello, everyone. We want to welcome Kyle France here today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Annette. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So you have a very interesting story. You've been the president of a second-generation family-owned school and camp.
Right.
You've also worked with a couple senators for 24 years.
Correct.
And you have won several awards. You've won the Role Model of 2005 by the Young Leadership Council.
Wow.
Right?
It's a long time ago. I don't remember that.
In 2018, I think it was University of Holy Cross's One Hope Award.
Right. Spes Unica.
Yeah.
Very, very heartwarming award that I won that night. It's very nice.
Yes.
So, but look, family, as you said, second generation family business.
Right.
Tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most family-owned businesses really don't last past the second generation. And I always discounted that, thinking that, we'd go on and continue on. Our business was rather unique. It's a private school, very difficult dealing with parents, and the kids are relatively easy. Mm-hmm. But then you have the family dynamic of that as well. And we're all born with different engines. We all operate differently. Obviously, I was a leader of our family as it related to the business, and in many respects on the personal side as well. And wasn't easy.
Right.
Somebody has to lead, and I guess I had those qualities. I was lucky enough to learn early on some really good leadership skills, and had some really excellent mentors. Not the least was my dad and my mom, who were very, very smart entrepreneurs. And I used to love listening to them. There wasn't a meal that went by at our home that we didn't talk about the business in one way or the other. So it was a very interesting business, but we had the opportunity as obviously entrepreneurs to sell our business, I guess around 7 years ago, to a large group out of London. Mm-hmm. And they called me on the phone and said, "We're interested in buying your schools." And I said, "Hang up and call me back if you're serious." And they called me back, and I was really kind of shocked. Yeah. But it took some time to work it out. We did. And ultimately, it was the best thing for our family, but more so for the legacy of our business. And we're very proud of what ISP has done with Keo France Schools. And I'm glad to be out of that line of work now and doing other things. So it's been good.
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about is the dynamics of the family and how there's, it can be challenging sometimes because you worked with your parents and you worked with your brothers. Yeah. So what are some challenges that you've had with that?
So parents are parents regardless. And,
right.
And then when you bring it down to the level of basically a business partner, it becomes a different dynamic. I worked well with both of my parents. My mother was the real leader kind of in our family. A very smart business person. I was able to work with Mom for 17, 18 years before she passed away in 1996. Dad was more the out front person, the more pat on the back kind of guy, kumbaya kind of thing. So then when I took over as president, when Mom passed away, basically ultimately took on two roles that my mother had as a business manager, and then Dad started backing away slowly. And so it became, two positions became one. Then we did the school in Covington. So we had two locations. And, the hours of doing that for my brothers and I were 17, 18-hour days, 365 days a year. Mm-hmm. Very tough. But that's what we knew.
Right.
It really didn't hit me until after we got out of the business, the amount of time that we spent at the business. We were born and raised at the school in Metairie. That was our
wow.
That
okay.
was where we played.
Yes.
We spent weekends cleaning classrooms and painting buildings and cleaning desks and doing all those kinds of things that goes with the business of running a school. But that dynamic over time really kind of changed as it relates to what's going on now in schools. I mean,
Yeah.
schools are basically locked down constantly, gates are locked, buildings are locked.
Right.
You have the legal issues surrounding all of that. And it's just a different dynamic. That's not why we got in that business many,
Yeah.
many years ago. But for those that are in it now, they understand it. It's better for them.
Yeah.
For us, we like the open campus. We like that family oriented atmosphere.
Right.
And sadly, it's a different world now as it relates to that. So,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, very tough.
So, I told you that I used to work with my father and
Right.
my mother, and they're two different businesses.
Right.
And so I understand the challenges, and like it's constant. You're talking about work all the time.
Right.
When you're eating dinner, or drinking your coffee, or you're riding down the road and remembering things, it's just
It's
it
tough.
could be a lot. Yeah.
It's something that you really don't realize at the time until it's not there. And you
Right.
realize it was constant. My mom and dad was constant. And then, with my brothers, I have three brothers. One of them's deceased. Sadly, right after Hurricane Katrina, my older brother committed suicide.
Yeah, I
And that
remember
was a
that.
very difficult thing for us as a family, not only internally for our immediate family, but then the whole school-wide family. And, down the line, I didn't realize that I really never mourned the loss of my brother at that time because we were dealing with all of the other peoples that worked
Right.
with us
Right.
that loved Kevin so much, as obviously we did as his brothers and his mom and dad,
Yeah.
or his dad. Mom was passed away then. Uh, but we had to deal with that and help those in the school community get through that. And my dad, who was a tremendous mentor and had been through so many things in his life, obviously that's probably the most difficult thing he ever faced. I told Dad at the get go that, Dad, this is maybe God's way of having us help others work through things that are so difficult. And that's kind of the way I looked at it.
Right.
And
Right.
otherwise, it would have been so overbearing. His wife, his wonderful kids, beautiful family, no sign of anything relative to him being in that mode of thought.
Yeah.
So,
That's tough.
it's our prayer every day that he's wherever he is, that he is at peace. And
Yeah.
now mom and dad are there as well. And we also had a sister who was born between Kevin and Kelly, who died as an infant. So,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so we had
Yeah.
I would have had a sister. So I don't know what that would have been like. It would have
Yeah.
been different. So,
It's funny how life is a journey, and just sometimes you can go down a different road and your life could be so much different.
you never
In
know.
fact, we were talking about that recently, about how, like, if you would have not gone into education, and you would have worked
Right.
more with the senators and
Right.
stay in that capacity, how different your life could have been.
Yeah, I think God's hand had a lot to do in that. I
Yeah.
was, really considering maybe moving to Washington to be involved as a leader in Senator Bro's office in Washington. And right about the time I was to make that decision, Mom got diagnosed with cancer, and ultimately realized that, your family calls, and I stayed here. And I was glad to do that because then we're able to do the second school, kind of build our business and do things that I thought were important. I mean, it's
Right.
like it's an umbrella. So under the umbrella, you have your family, and as your family grows, your business better grow if you want to support your
Right.
family members.
Yes.
And so we were able to do that, and really found a beautiful place over in Covington, built the school, began a legacy there, which continues to today, and proud that your three kids went to my school as well. So we're proud to have them.
Uh, the girl that was doing my hair this morning, she was telling me that she used to work at the camp,
Really?
and that Anna Kate was in her class as a 2-year-old.
Oh, God
She
bless
goes,
them.
"Oh my goodness,
Okay.
it's like they're
Yeah.
grown now." So
Yeah, so
that's,
Anna Kate's
yeah,
my youngest daughter, who's a nurse at University Medical Center, and Mary Martin's my oldest daughter, who was in the retail business and has recently sold her business as an entrepreneur and is looking to do something else, maybe move to Dallas and start a different career. So I'm proud of my kids, and I'm proud of my nieces and nephews. All of them have done well. Um, it hadn't been an easy climb for all of
Mm.
them, but sooner or later they get up to the mountain, and I'm proud of what they've accomplished.
So, this, one of the things we've talked about before is privilege, and you said that experience that you had when you were younger kind of defined who you became as a leader.
Right.
And the most people who know you, who don't know you really well or just know of
Right.
you, are going to look at you and go, well, he's had a silver spoon. He's
Yeah.
never understood anything difficult. And that's really not the case,
I'm
right?
still looking for that silver spoon because mom and dad had nothing when they started the school. They moved to Metairie in 1955 and bought 3 acres of land, which was swampland back then, and built an office, uh, living quarters above the office, 3 little classrooms, and a swimming pool, and started our business that way. My dad had an uncle who was in Dallas, was in the Coca-Cola business, and loaned him $10,000 to get going. And that's how mom and dad started. We're different than most schools. Most schools are set up as not-for-profit entities. We were set up as a business enterprise, like a C corp. If
Mm-hmm.
you can
Yes.
understand that. And so we ran it differently. So we did, no fundraising, as you know, and that we didn't do any of that.
Right.
Different,
Right.
different model. As time moved on, we realized that parents really wanted to be wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be involved. Well, we figured out ways that they can get involved at school, come do storytelling, do those kinds of things. I don't want to be compromised by Annette Dowdle giving the school $10,000 in contributions and then her son getting in trouble and
Mm-hmm.
coming to the office and say, well, look what I've done for Keogh France. So
Right. Exactly.
everybody was dealt with on an even playing field. And as far as my family being privileged, my grandfather was from Yugoslavia, came across the ocean uh, on a boat when he was a young man, 20, 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My father grew up in the French Quarter to his, obviously, his mother and father. His father spoke very little, if any, English. His mother was a very devout Catholic, and I think Dad credits a lot of his success to that Catholicism back then. At St. Louis Cathedral, he was an altar boy and did all those kinds of things. CYO, played basketball, got involved in scouting. Dad ultimately became an Eagle Scout, which is something he was very, very proud of. And
Wow. Yeah.
and then they, I was the third, really the fourth born to mom and dad, and then Key was under me. So it was anything but privileged, but we had a wonderful childhood of working together,
Mm-hmm.
helping build the business. A lot of folks don't realize that we were there all along the way with mom and dad as well, and it was a wonderful team. Um, Not easy all the time, but a lot of learning and a lot of mentoring and guidance along the way. So very proud of it.
Yeah. Well, you told me a story about you going to summer camp,
Yeah, yeah. So I
which
was
is
lucky
just
enough to, I don't know how mom and dad afforded this, but I was lucky enough to go to camp in Maine as a young boy. And they put me on a airplane with a name tag on me, Kyle France, New Orleans, and put me on the plane. And I tell parents that story, and they're like, "Oh, I could never do that."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, my parents loved me, and that's why they did it."
Yeah.
And it was an 8-week boarding camp. It was the greatest experience of my life. Most of the campers were from the East Coast. Most of the campers were Jewish campers. I was
Mm-hmm.
Catholic, so every Sunday I'd get in the station wagon with the 4 other Catholic boys. We go to mass on Sunday. But having that experience and opening my eyes to a different way of life,
Mm-hmm.
those campers, for the most part, were privileged. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
came from serious backgrounds of wealth. We didn't know that. We all put our pants on the same way, right? One leg at a
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
And we're all good friends and had the greatest of times. And that had a lot to do with me kind of getting out of my own,
Right.
realizing that you could walk on your own 2 feet, make your own decisions, be sure that you think through them, and make right decisions. That's how you were raised. And
Right.
I'm really, I was, that was a great experience. And because of that, and my wife also went away to camp. My two girls, we made certain that they went away to camp growing up. I
Yeah.
think it's a good experience for kids to be away from parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I sent my kids to camp,
Yeah,
and I felt like it was a great experience for them to learn how to be independent and to
right,
use their own voice.
right.
So yeah, I was glad had that
Yeah.
opportunity to do that for them. We, the way I grew up, I didn't have a shot. Camp was going to grandma's house and
Yeah. No, I don't know. I still don't know how mom and dad afforded to send me to camp, but they
right,
did.
right,
They sacrificed a lot
right.
for us. And we went to Yugoslavia as young kids. Uh, I don't we went to Disneyland in California and places like that. But our business was around the clock all year long.
Yeah,
School, camp, school again. So it's very, very, very little downtime for us. But through all of that, Annette, I learned through those experiences the importance of giving back, getting involved in the community. Um, we were blessed with an uncle who was mentally handicapped, and because of that, we were really involved in mental retardation in
hmm,
and around New Orleans. I was on the Magnolia School Board for 20 something years, and chairman of that board for a lot of years. Helped rebuild that campus. So those kinds of things I think are very, very important. Yesterday, I was meeting with the Louisiana Air National Guard about their Youth Challenge program,
yeah.
and
That sounds
they've got,
interesting.
yeah, they
Yeah,
have some 1,300 students, 16 to 18-year-old boys and girls who are at that crossroads in life and are looking for the appropriate guidance and mentoring to kind of get them to where they need to be, maybe to go to a technical school, a community college, or maybe even a university. So those kinds of programs are critical. Not We
right,
all don't go off to college and
right.
get
Exactly. It's not for
degrees.
everybody.
We need more plumbers, we need more carpenters, we need more trade associated workers in order for our communities to flourish. And I think if we give our kids those kinds of opportunities, they can flourish. It's all about opportunities.
Right.
What do we do with those opportunities is what makes us who we
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
We could flounder and look at it with a weary eye, or we could take advantage of it. Now, I um, uh, gladly and happily now looking back really took advantage of most of those opportunities. Even the fact that I went to first grade 2 years in a row, and I took advantage of that second year to go from the back of the line to
right,
the front of the line. So
right.
those kinds of things are important. I think for parents now, I always think about writing a book for parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We need to allow our kids to be that first grader, be that second grader. We've been there. Like I said, I did first grade 2 years in a row. When my kids were in first grade, I didn't want to do it 3 years in a row, right? So
right,
let them be that student, let them experience those defeats.
right,
And because if we coddle them and protect them from that, they'll never really appreciate the wins.
right. Yeah,
So anyway, that's just kind of, I think now what I see with a lot of parenting is more of the wanting to be the best friend
right,
type parent, and that's clearly not the way to, in my view, not
right.
the way to do it. That's not how I was raised, and I would say that probably you weren't raised that way either.
Oh
So
no,
yeah,
no. I think I do thank my parents for my work ethic
right,
because in order to have the Jordache genes, I had to like babysit.
right, right,
I wanted it so bad, so I was motivated to
right,
work, and I did everything. I cut grass. I babysat. I worked at fast food restaurants. I worked
right.
at um, I even worked on a farm grading potatoes. Can you
Wow,
imagine me with
wow,
a hairnet
wow.
grading potatoes?
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I think the other side of that too is we all live in silos now,
Hmm.
seemingly.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to have grown up in a family that was a very inclusive family. Now, I think we were excluded in many ways,
Hmm.
being in New Orleans, but not the New Orleans kind of thing. It's that we always
Oh,
refer
you
to
weren't in the
as
proper New Orleans?
blue
Yeah.
blood roots,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I think Hurricane Katrina had a lot to do with leveling the playing field relative to that. but we lived in a colorblind home.
Mm-hmm.
We raised our own children that way, and again, we're all God's children here, and
Mm-hmm.
none of us are better than the other.
Right.
Some of us have had more opportunities than others,
Right.
and we took advantage of those opportunities. I think it's important for us that have had those opportunities to help others get those kinds of opportunities to pull themselves up as well. And so that inclusive nature of growing up, kind of having a blindfold on as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to um, judging others.
Right.
Um, I'm glad I was raised not to be that way.
So, Kyle, you raised $1.2 billion for the community. Is that what I
Well, I've been
understand?
involved in
And
projects.
and I think that's important. Yeah.
Probably now that, I mean, I think my bias is 1.2. I think it's closer to 3 billion. But it's again, it's not about what I have done.
But you have done a lot for the community. And so I think it's important to
Yeah,
share that because I think some of the most successful business leaders see the need to right the playing field
right,
somewhat and to give back to, communities to help people who, like you were just talking about, the disadvantaged youth that between
right.
16 and 18.
Right. Well, part of all of those projects involves the spillover into the community of whether it's helping rebuild the Hyatt Hotel in downtown New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
being a part of the team that built the new airport in New Orleans. Obviously, as a chairman of the LSED, which is the Superdome, the arena, Alario Center, and all of that. We've just finished a $535 million renovation of the Superdome.
Yeah, during
we,
COVID.
we started before COVID. We busted through COVID, kept going.
Right.
Um,
And that had its own unique challenges
oh,
as well,
very much so. So you're dealing with state politics and the situation in New Orleans and and elected officials from across the state really not wanting to do things for New Orleans for
Right.
good reasons.
Right.
But it is a wheel that makes the rest of the state go around.
Yes.
Other parts of the state don't have the Super Bowl. Other parts of the state don't have the Sugar Bowl and all of these things. There's a lot of tax dollars that are spun off because of the events that we have in and around New Orleans that relates to the state-owned facilities down there. Governor Edwards appointed me, John Bell, to the chair of the Superdome. It was probably the highlight of my career
Mm-hmm.
working with him and with that board and helping renovate that Superdome, which opened when I was 15 years old, and now I could say, well, we gave it another 40 years of life, and so
Right.
then we've got the Super Bowl coming too.
Yeah,
So
next
yeah,
year.
it'll be neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So when was New Orleans chosen, or what came first? The
The,
renovation or the
no, the renovation had nothing to do with the Super Bowl coming
Okay.
here.
And just
The NFL loves New Orleans. The 60,000 hotel rooms and walking distance of the stadium. Obviously, all of the food that we offer, the other venues, music venues, and so forth. It's a great place to be, and I think because of that, we'll always have an NFL franchise here in New Orleans, because the NFL does not want to. They love coming here. They're going to go to a city where there's an NFL team. The Saints organization is a very good organization. Since Mr. Benson passed away, there's a kind of a leadership cabinet, so to speak, that are running the Saints. We worked hand in hand with them on the renovation. They put up a third of the money, which is really
yeah.
good. And then the LSCD, through our bonding capacity, put up the other 2/3. So that was tough. I learned a lot about bonds and about contracts. We did a CMAR there, which is a manager at risk. So you sit down and you basically negotiate a price based on what your plan is, and it's a guaranteed maximum price (GMP), and they can't go over that. So it's a constant work. Uh, it's constantly working at making certain that you don't go over that. Most state contracts or low bid. And
Mm-hmm.
what you get with low bids is a lot of add-ons, right?
Oh, yeah.
And to do a low bid contract on a renovation of the Superdome would have been prohibitive. So
Yeah.
the CMAR was really the right thing to do. So again, it's this whole different, for me, out of the box kind of thinking. But at the end of the day, it's really about business. It's about what you think is right. It's about people
Right.
and getting the right people. We selected Broadmoor to build this project out. Obviously, a local company that did tremendous work. A lot of subs in and around New Orleans, a lot of minorities, unions, all those kinds of things. So it's a good spinoff for the state through the LSED.
That's very cool. What a
Yeah.
great experience to
Yeah,
have.
very much
Learn so
so.
much.
Yeah.
So, dual citizenship with
Yeah,
Croatia.
that was neat.
That is very neat.
Yeah.
I love you telling that story.
Yeah. So Dad, for longest time you had to speak the language, Croatian, and then they changed the rules. I guess about 10 years ago. So prior to Dad passing away, I told him that I was going to do that, and I did. And it took some time. I had to get my grandfather's birth certificate, not birth certificate, but birth book from
Birth book.
basically from the Catholic Church in Yugoslavia, from Zagreb now, which is the
Yeah.
capital. I had to get my grandfather and grandmother's marriage certificate. I had to get my dad's certificate where he shortened his name to France from Franisovich to prove that he was my father. My mom and dad's marriage certificate, my birth certificate, which basically shows a lineage,
Right.
and so then it was a lot of documentation, but I got it done, and I'm real proud of it. When I go to Europe, I carry it around. I was over there not too long ago with friends, and everywhere we went, they saw, Kyle, you got your passport? Because they'd laugh about it. But I said, EU passport is something I'm proud of. If you went over there, as I did as a kid, and saw where my dad's uncles, how they lived, basically with dirt floors, and they were peasants and fishermen and those kinds of things, you could appreciate really where they came from. And my grandfather, to get on that boat when he did, to come to America for a dream,
Yeah.
a real dream for something better.
Right.
But for the grace of God, where would I be?
Yeah.
So I don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. And you had the great American dream, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly my dad did. And because of that, we did, my brothers and I, and we're still living it today. And, this idea of building walls around our country and not being inclusive and all of that look, we all have different political views. I get that and I respect that.
Right.
But we all came from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
We're not Native American Indians. I don't think you are. I'm not. So we came from somewhere else, and we're blessed to be able to call ourselves American citizens. And there are a lot of folks out there that really want that, and
Yeah.
come here and work toward that. Hopefully, we'll get to that point sometime.
So, Kyle, what do you do for fun? I mean, you're so busy, between all the boards that you participate in, all the volunteer work, business, of course, what do you,
I'd gotten in. I'd really like I like being in the woods to hunt. I've kind of lost that desire to hunt as I used to. But I like the quietness of being in the woods. I like going out to nice restaurants and being with friends. I really don't have a lot of hobbies because when I was growing up, I played sports. I was a big tennis player growing up as a kid. I was a ranked player in New Orleans for a number of years. One of the regret that I have is that I didn't continue with my tennis because I think I really could have gone somewhere with my size now and everything else. But I wanted to play basketball. I did that, and I always tell people, I was slow and white and couldn't jump, but I wanted to play basketball, and I did that. But I had a pretty good high school career. But I think with tennis, I could have had a lot more opportunities. But I mean, how many more opportunities could I want to have?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm blessed. So, but I do try to do things with my kids. Travel a good bit.
Yeah, you do travel.
But as far as hobbies are concerned, not many.
So, let me ask you about we talked about this, about your legacy, and that was just, it was sweet
Yeah.
what you share with me about how you want
I think,
people
yeah, I think
to remember you
I
by.
think it's not really remembering me. It's more about the legacy that we have in thousands of students and campers and people that we worked with at our schools,
Mm-hmm.
Annette,
Yeah,
that carry a piece of Keo France with them. And for us, that is as fulfilling as anything we could ever want to have. I see
right.
people all the time running the kid. Hey, Mr. Kyle. Hey, Mr. Remember
Mm-hmm.
this? Remember that?
Oh, yeah,
That's neat. And then
that
they
is
go off
cool.
to high school and college, and we get wedding invitations and those kinds of things, or teachers' anniversaries, and we're all one family, and
Right.
that's how we treated it that way. And so our legacy for myself and my brothers, when we did decided to sell the business to ISP, we wanted to be sure that that legacy would continue on as
Right.
Keo France, and the mission, the motto, all of those things have remained the same. And from all intents and purposes, from what I hear, I really hadn't been back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I walked out a month before COVID was my last day, the last day of January 2020.
Oh, wow. The timing on
Yeah,
that.
and I really hadn't. It's hard for me to go back.
Yeah.
Key and Kelly go back a good bit. I just have a hard time.
Is it a little emotional for you?
Yeah, it's emotional, but also the amount of time and effort that went into that, and to go back and kind of relive that from a different vantage point
Yeah.
is something that I really don't want to have to
Yeah.
do.
Just want to move
Yeah,
forward.
yeah,
Move forward.
yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people had a revelation about something during COVID.
Hmm.
Was there anything that was significant for you?
Well, the revelation in COVID was realizing how blessed we were to not be in that business, and that our kids, the students, had the opportunity to go to a school that ISP was running. They had schools all over the world, and they had the backbench to support, whether it's online learning or those kinds of things, and that could keep our kids connected. And that
Right.
was important. When ISP bought Keo France, they had 24 schools around the world, none in America. We were the first two in America. Now they have 10 in America and 85 schools
Oh, wow.
around the world, all
Yeah.
over,
Right.
Vietnam, everywhere.
So it was like almost perfect timing for them to have the support and strength to be able to switch over
Yeah,
to that
right,
online world.
right. That would have been difficult for us.
Right.
We would have done it. We always found a way
Right.
to do it, right?
Yeah, that's just the way
But
y'all are.
yeah, but ultimately the COVID was a different animal, and
Yeah.
that was something that I make the sign of the cross all the time, that I wasn't in that position. I got a call yesterday from the school in Metairie. They had a water main break in the front of the school, on the parish water main.
Yeah.
The parish was out there fixing it, and they broke the sewer line.
Oh,
So they were telling the school they couldn't get out there till Monday. And Kyle, can you call somebody and get them to
yeah.
come out? So they had somebody out there this morning to fix it. So I'm still in touch. It's still the same leadership team
Right.
that we had when we owned the schools, and that says a lot, I think, about the quality of people that we brought in and we attracted to our leadership.
Yeah, and the
So,
culture that
yeah,
you established there was really strong,
yeah,
so it could, you know,
continue.
continue.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want what's the last thing that you want to share with the audience about yourself?
Well, I said it before. My nature is one of really being inclusive, and the world we live in now is so much a silo world that I'm in this spot, don't get in my spot, don't
Mm-hmm.
get in my space, and I think the only way we could learn and grow and become better is
Mm-hmm.
to understand and listen to one another.
Right.
And if our lips are moving, our ears aren't open. And so we need to open our ears more and listen to others, to what they're saying. There's a lot
Right.
of hurt out there.
Yes.
And I think if we take time to listen to people, as to what is affecting them, both
Right.
positive and negative, then I think hopefully we could leave this world a better place. And I have a lot of faith in our country. I have a lot of faith in our people, and we
Right.
can get there.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, this was a lot of fun.
It was.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you
Thanks for
coming.
having me. I
Yeah.
love doing this, and I think mentoring and leadership are so needed in so many ways. And it's really not about telling young people what to do.
Right.
It's about talking them through the process. Let them understand that you go face these issues,
Mm-hmm.
and then remember what your parents told you, right? You're gonna hit a crossword, you're gonna hit a Y in the road one day.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have this little voice in the back of your mind telling you, don't go do that. Remember what mom said.
Right.
It's like the story I tell about bringing the students to Angola State Prison,
Oh, yeah.
and I had parents that told me, "Well, our kids will never end up there." And with all due respect, crime doesn't know color, and there are all sorts of various ethnic
Right.
groups and things like that at Angola. And the first year I brought the students, we had a white prisoner who spoke to our students, which is really appropriate to kind of help me with the message I was trying to give our students and their parents.
Right.
And he was the son of two professors at LSU. And he got arrested when he was 19 years old. He had gotten around with the wrong group. His parents, his friends kept telling him, "You're running with the wrong group."
Mm-hmm.
And the night he got arrested, they went into a 7-Eleven. They stole 2 cases of beer, and when they were running out, he decided to turn around and shoot the glass door, and he killed the teller behind the counter.
Oh, Lord.
So he is in prison for the rest of his life because of that
Wow.
one instant.
And
And the students say, "When do you get out?"
yeah.
Then I'm going out feet first.
Oh, that's sad.
But there is a upper middle class. I mean, they're all walks of life up there.
Right.
We all make mistakes,
Right.
right? And there are consequences for those mistakes. You pull that trigger on a gun, there's somebody on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And that, I think that experience taking the students to Angola, seeing that, realizing that, there are decisions that we can make in an instant and change our life in a very drastic way, I think is critical for them to learn that. But we can tell them that all we want.
Yes.
For them to hear it and see it is living it. And
Right.
if they can do it that way, then I think it's more impactful.
Yeah. It was powerful for my
Yeah,
kids too when
yeah,
they went.
yeah.
So they still, talk about that, like
Well, I
what they
used to ask
saw.
the kids, we'd come back about 3 or 4 months later. I said, "What do you think that guy's doing today that we saw in Camp F at Angola?" And
Mm-hmm.
they'd think a little bit, think a little bit. And I said, "He's doing the same thing he did when we saw him that day.
Yeah.
Their life doesn't change."
Right. The consequences of,
Yeah,
small decisions.
yeah, yeah. Ends up in a bad place. So
Yeah.
anyway,
All right. So how do we
thank
wrap up on this a little bit on an upbeat?
this soliloquy. Well, on the upbeat is I think, and Annette, I'm proud of what you're doing with these podcasts. I see them from time to time, and it's
Thank
good
you.
for people in the community to see that,
Right.
get different perspective,
Yeah.
understand folks better. Hopefully, this was helpful to others maybe who didn't know our story or
Right.
whatever.
If they're considering
Yeah,
getting in a family business and
yeah.
that, it's not always.
If you're considering getting in a family business, call me. I'll be happy to help you. But it's all about the dynamic. I mean, everybody knows their family, right? And you know what you can do. You can pick your business partners. You
Mhm.
can't pick your family members.
Mm.
And I always say my brothers probably wouldn't have picked me as a business partner, and that's not a negative.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. And maybe I wouldn't have picked them either.
Right.
So, but since we were born into it, we figured out a way to make it work. And I always said, I told Dad when he asked me to take on this role, I said, I'm happy to do it. And I told my brothers, I said, if I'm going to do this, there's going to be one leader. And we did it that way. And I'm proud of my brothers for supporting me through all of that. we could agree to disagree internally.
Right.
When we walked out of the room, we had to agree that this is how it's going to be. So
Yeah.
that always get people. Well, he told me to come see you. I said, okay, well, what's up? But that's good because you can't
Yes.
get three different messages. I mean, there's got to be
Right.
a leader in every camp. You're the leader in your camp.
Right.
You lead a bunch of really good, smart people that make you look good every day.
Right. They're a lot smarter than me.
Right. And we're smarter for hiring people that are smarter than us.
Exactly.
I've always done that, and that's why the leaders are still at Keogh Friends, because they were really smart, good leaders.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's a good message to share.
yeah,
Is that, number one, be thoughtful if you're going to get into a family business, and to call Kyle, and to surround yourself by people who are smarter than you.
yeah. Don't be
So,
afraid of that. I mean,
yeah.
if you walk in a room and you think you're the smartest one there, you're in the wrong place.
Yep. You're
I
right.
could leave it on that.
Yep. Well, thank
Thanks.
you. I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Good.
Yes.
Good seeing you.
Until next time, my friends, remember, as we continue to strive for excellence in both our professional and personal lives, let's always aim to elevate ourselves and those around us. Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth and empowerment, and keep reaching for new heights.